So far we have been looking at altitudes and medians of triangles, and now we're going to look at the equations of the lines that create those on the coordinate plane. So for altitudes, an important thing to remember is that they must be perpendicular 90 degrees to the base. So they will be going through the base and they will go through the vertex on the side, the vertex that is not one of the endpoints on the base. So the first step is to determine the slope of the base. Then we're going to take the negative reciprocal because it's going to be perpendicular. So if the first slope is 1/2, the new slope would be negative 2 over 1. If the first slope is negative 3 over 4, the perpendicular slope would be positive 4 over 3. If the original slope is positive 5, the negative reciprocal would be negative 1 over 5. So you just flip it and change sign. If it's a whole number to start, put a 1 underneath. Then the next thing we need to do is identify the vertex, the one that's not on the base. Just write those coordinates down. Those are what the line is going to be going through. Then finally use the point slope formula with that negative reciprocal slope in step 2 and the point we wrote down in step 3. The exception is if the slope is 0 or undefined. In that instance, it's easier to determine the equation of the line graphically. So in this example, we're going to find the altitude to base AB and then AC, starting first with just AB. So I'm going to highlight that. And you can easily see that the slope is 0 because it goes up 0 over 8. And then the vertex, it's going to have to go through point C over here, and those coordinates are 3, 4. So I wrote those down. Finally, well, I could use point slope formula, except that it's a vertical line, and that's not really going to work so well with the point slope formula. So graphically, I can see that it's just a vertical line going through point C where x is always 3. So the answer to the equation on the line is x equals 3. That is the altitude to base AB. Now we're going to go ahead and do base AC, which I've highlighted here. And I need to find this slope, and you can see it's either up 4 over 6 or up 2 over 3. Both of those are the same. And to find the perpendicular, I'm going to use the negative reciprocal, which means to flip it and change sign. So I have negative 3/2. I also need to know that it's going through vertex B, not A, not C, but rather B. So I write down the coordinates, which are 5, 0. Finally, I bring up the point slope formula and substitute in this point and the perpendicular slope into the equation of the line. Distributing the negative 3/2, I get y equals negative 3/2 x plus 15 over 2. So there is the equation of the line. It's going to go with a y-intercept of 7.5 and has a slope of down 3 over 2. So for medians are a little different. They're not necessarily perpendicular to the base. They do bisect it, though. They go through the midpoint, and they also have to go through the vertex on the other side. So the first step is to determine the midpoint. Then we find the slope of our median. So we're not going to be doing perpendicular or negative reciprocal. We just take that midpoint and the other vertex and find the slope. Once we do that, we take our midpoint here and our slope there and use the point slope formula. Again, the exception is if the slope is 0 or undefined, which means we're dealing with a vertical or horizontal segment. And in that case, it is easier to determine it graphically. So in this case, I have the median to base AC, which is right here. And the first step is to find the midpoint. And I can see it's negative 3 plus 3 over 2, 4 plus 0 over 2. So my midpoint is at 0, 2 right here. Then I find the slope of this line connecting that midpoint to that vertex. So I'm going to go, this is 5, 0 and 0, 2. So it's 0 minus 2 all over 5 minus 0, or negative 2/5. Then just use the point slope formula. Y minus 2 equals negative 2/5 x minus 0, using the midpoint. I could technically also use the vertex. That should also work. And when I distribute, I get y minus 2 equals negative 2/5 x minus 0. Add 2 to both sides, and I get my final equation of the median, which is right there. And you can see it matches. If you look at that slope right there, it goes down 2/5, and the y-intercept is 2. So for further reflection, when do you think that a median would be perpendicular to the base that it intersects? So in other words, it would also be the altitude.